Hey folks, welcome back to the Edupedia world, and I am Abhinay Gupta. And today again we will continue with the Professional Ethics by the Chartered Accountant Act 1949. Right? So what have we covered in the previous lecture? Yes, we have understood clause 3 in detail. Right? So what did that clause have a crux to revolve around? It was about the restriction on accepting any share from the professional earning of anybody other than the prescribed people. Right? In short, that is how you remember the clauses. At the end, when we have discussed all the clauses, I will give you a story that you need to remember to relate to the number of each clause. Because in the examination, the basic problem that we face as a student writing the examination is to remember the clause number, is to relate to the part number, is to relate to the schedule number. You know that yeah, this is right, this is wrong, you'll write the text, but unless and until you refer to which schedule, which part, which clause, you don't fetch marks, right? So I'll give you a story, right? You can frame your own stories, you can frame your mnemonics to learn as well, but I'll give you a story that I have framed and that helped me a lot when I was a student for CA final. Right? It helped me remember, and I still, with the help of that story, remember each number of the clauses. Right? So please stay tuned. At the end, after finishing all the clauses, I will share the stories with you. Okay? And there will be very reasonable, very logical stories, which will be easy to remember, right? Because mnemonics are something you need to mug up without logics. Then I'll give you a rational story that you can imagine and register in your brain. Okay? So today we move on to the next clause, which is clause number 4. So the first schedule, part 1, clause 4. Let us go through the text. So when we start as it belongs to the part 1, our first line will be common. A chartered accountant in practice is deemed to be guilty of professional misconduct. Two things to remember, to highlight. One is practice and the other is professional misconduct. Right? So what will he be guilty of? Or what is the act that this clause is trying to prohibit? It says that you're not supposed to enter into partnership. So it says you'll be deemed to be guilty of professional misconduct if you enter into partnership in or outside India with any person other than the following. Now, remember, when we talk about partnership inside outside India, and you will be deemed to be guilty if it is anybody other than the following, that means it clearly states that yes, you can go ahead with partnership outside India as well, but with these following prescribed people only. Clear? So that is the first indication that this gives, although it's an indirect indication, but it is very clear and very prominent. Right? So with any person other than whom? Other than any other chartered accountant. So you can get partnered with any chartered accountant all over the globe. Wherever he is, you don't care. Right? But he has to be a chartered accountant in practice. It is not talking about the chartered accountants in job. It is specifically talking about the chartered accountants in practice who have their COP, the certificate of practice with them. Right? Or such other person who is a member of any other professional body having such qualification as may be prescribed. Now whenever you come across this, one thing that should register your brain is regulation 53A. Forget about the clause 1, 2, whatever it is. First thing that should hit your brain is regulation 53A. So when we're talking about qualifications, it is 53A3. And when we were talking about the bodies, it was 53A1. So again over here also, it is talking about, it is a different, over here it is talking about both the things actually. Member of any other professional body having such qualification as may be prescribed. And then it goes on to include a resident who, but for his residence abroad, would be entitled to be registered as a member under clause 5 of subsection 1 of section 4. Which means to say that if that person was in India, then everything was fine. So even if he's outside India, we'll consider him to be the same, right? Or whose qualifications are recognized by the central government or the council for the purpose of permitting such partnership. That means there are specifically four categories: either he is a chartered accountant in practice, or he falls under regulation 53A, or if he would have been in India, he would have been qualified, but just because he is abroad, we are dicey about it, so they are permitted. And at last, other qualifications that the central government recognizes and central government permits for partnership. Right? It is as simple as that. That these are the only four category of people with whom you can enter into partnership. Right? And over here also, the second point again allows you to get into a multidisciplinary LLP, limited liability partnership. Right? Earlier this concept was not very familiar in our country, right? But lately, like for the past few years, this concept has gone very wide. Like if I talk to you about, if I take an example of the own Big Four where I was working, right? If I talk about KPMG, then KPMG over here works with BSR. They cannot operate on the name of KPMG, right? Like EY and PwC, Deloitte, GT, Deloitte, all of them, they work at someone else's name. They have partnered with a firm in India. Like it's Bartley Boy for EY, Walker and Chindoik for GT. So similarly, it is BSR Associates for KPMG. But recently, they have again converted it to BSR and Associates LLP. Earlier, it was not a limited liability partnership. It was just a partnership firm. But now even they have converted it into limited liability partnership. And that has been done recently, like 2-3 years back. Right? So these clauses, they actually promote such multidisciplinary partnership firm. That is, you can have a lawyer, you can have a CS, you can have an actuary, you are a chartered accountant, you can have more chartered accountants, and then you can form a partnership firm with them. So this is a concept that has been growing wild in India now. Right? So okay, forget about that. Now let us get into again this clause. So what does this clause mean to say? So it says that yes, you can enter into partnership with only these category of people. Prescribed regulation 53A, CA in practice. Anybody who would be in India, then he would be, that means these people, CA in practice or the prescribed qualification, if these people are outside India as well, they are allowed. And at last, they have also given some space that if CG permits any specific category of people to be a part of it, then we will also take that into consideration. But otherwise, if you have a partner who is not a CA in practice, who does not fall in regulation 53A, and who is not also supported by the central government for this purpose, then you are deemed to be guilty of professional misconduct, and the consequences will follow you. Right? It is a clear clause. Don't go by so many words and the big phrase that it has. Just have 2-3 key points on your fingertips. Be a partner, CA, regulation 53A, or if CG supports. That is it. To understand the crux, that is it. And you don't have any international barrier. Right? No geographical barriers. Clear with it? It is as simple as that. But now, there's one more thing that you should understand. Over here, we're talking about the professional body, that is regulation 53A1. Then we're talking about the qualification as well, which is again regulation 53A3. So you have permission for both. Both of them are included. But understand, regulation 53A1 was talking about those specific bodies. That yeah, if you are a part of those bodies, you are allowed. 53A3 talks about, okay, if you have these qualifications, you are allowed. Right? If you have the qualification of a lawyer, qualification of this, qualification of actuary and that. Now there is another regulation, regulation 53B, that we will be talking about, which is not the body, which is not the qualification, but it is those qualified people now. Right? So understand where you have to specify the body, where you have to specify the qualifications given by that body, and where do you specify the products of those bodies. That means the qualified people. So you'll have to specify these regulations and then go ahead writing like that. When we're talking about body, it is the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. When you're talking about the qualification, it is Chartered Accountancy. And when you're talking about the designation, it is Chartered Accountants. So these are three different things. Normally, a student gets it all common. But what will distinguish you from any other ordinary student is that you are being specific with each clause and each regulation. And it is not difficult, my dear friend. It is just a realization that you don't have. That while you are going through the text, or when the teachers are teaching, they generally do not point out these differences because it is just a matter of pointing it out. You will understand this when you pick up this subject back again 1 month later. It will automatically hit your brain. Okay, we had 3 different categories. Let us focus where was which. And you will remember it in your examination as well. So this is what modifies your paper. This is what gives your paper an edge above the rest. Right? It is all given over there, just a realization that we make. Right? That means how deeply we have gone through the subject matter. So let us discuss about the two of them. One is the prescribed professional qualification, Regulation 53A3, which we have seen. CS, CWA, Actuary, Bachelor of Engineering, Bachelor of Technology, Bachelor of Law, Bachelor of Architect, and MBAs. Right? But when we are talking about Regulation 53B, when we are talking about the membership of professional bodies, this is not the professional body, this is not professional qualification, this is membership of those professional bodies. So then we will write that it is Company Secretary is a member of the Institute of Company Secretary of India. Then you write Cost Accountants as member of the Institute of Cost and Work Accountant of India, which is established under the Cost and Work Accountant Act 1959. Then you talk about advocates. You're not talking about Bachelor of Law. Bachelor of Law is a degree. Advocate is the designation. Advocate is the membership. So, Advocate of the Bar Council of India. Body is the Bar Council of India. Qualification is the Bachelor of Law. And the designation, that is the membership, is being an advocate. Right? Like the degree is Bachelor of Engineering, but the membership is of an engineer. From the body which is the Institute of Engineers. Right? Then you have again the architect, member of IIA. What is IIA? Indian Institute of Architects. But otherwise what you had, the Bachelor of Architect is the degree. Finally, an actuary, member of the Institute of Actuaries, which is again the same. Actuaries is the qualification and actuary is the designation. Right? So it is almost the same thing. When we are talking about CS, either you say it's a company secretary course, company secretaries, or it is the Institute of Company Secretary. It almost refers to the same thing. Because you will not partner with the institute, you will partner with the members of the institute, right? But still, since these regulations have been specified differently on different front, what is the harm in writing it that way? Right? It's not about right or wrong. It is about the precision with which you write your answers. It is about the impact that you make on the examiner. It is about how your paper stands out, because that particular examiner, that particular person who is checking the paper will be checking more than 50 papers. After 5-10 papers, it goes all low. Okay, it's the same thing. Tick, out of 4, 3, out of 4, 3, out of 4, 2, out of 4, 3. But suddenly when he sees this kind of an answer, when he gets charged up, it's a different paper. Out of 4, 4. Right? Understand the psychology. That is where you have to hit. That is where you have to hammer. Right? And I hope all of you are alive and kicking. And let us make a different result. Let us change that trend of the pattern. And it is not very difficult. It is just being a little more alert to different things. Right? And don't worry, for that I am already available over here. I will help you with all those alertness. I'll help you to pinpoint each specific differences by which your paper can stand out. All you need to do is keep following. People given 100% for CA, you have to give just 102%. That 2% extra will give you that edge, and that 2% is being alert of these kind of situations. Even if you don't do it, it will not give you a negative marking, it will not take your marks away, but if you give it, it will create a good impression, a good impact, and that will fetch you marks. Trust me, it does. Right? That was all about the clause 4. You have certain cases as well that has been specified by the institute as a case study, wherein a chartered accountant was engaged in as a partner in 2 firms, right? And he was also managing director in 2 companies, and then he went ahead with certain things, and then they considered it to be a fault, and he was penalized. So if you want to get to that case study, please get into the detail of the case studies book that the institute has separately, or you don't get a separate book on case study, but you'll get it on the website. It's a case of 2001. But if you want a detailed analysis on how the question comes and how it is to be answered, you can refer to question number 1D and 7.1 in your latest practice manual. When I say latest, this class is being given to you in the month of July 2016. So whatever is the latest available for you in January, right? Because you always need to be updated with your contents. So in that you get this question number 1D and 7.1 that you can refer, right? But be comfortable. After completing this chapter, I will also take you through the question answers right here with the lecture itself, right? So when we are going through these questions, when they hit, I'll again connect you back to this section, to this clause, to this part, to this schedule, and I will remind you again that yes, we talked about certain cases over there, and this is how the questions are asked, and this is how you're supposed to answer, because I want you to be prepared full-fledged with it, right? So for now, just go ahead with the clauses, remember the clauses, try to remember each content of it, right? And go ahead with the flow. We will discuss the questions as well, right? So that will be all for the day. We are complete. We are done with clause 4. In next class we'll pick up clause 5, and then clause 6 will be a little lengthier clause because you have a lot of things to discuss over there, and that is an important clause. You get questions from there as well, so pay attention to that, right? I'll be back with that. For now, we are done with clause 4, and this is Abhinay Gupta signing off, taking your leave until the next class, right? So please stay tuned. Thank you and bye-bye.